And we're just going to give him a minute to do that. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on doing business with COTA. We have an exciting lineup of speakers today from the Central Ohio Transit Authority. I am Wendy Bortz, webinar facilitator and program manager for Check Ohio First. Check Ohio First is a virtual initiative of the Ohio Small Business Development Centers and the Ohio Development Services Agency. We work to connect Ohio suppliers with buyers online, and our larger goal is to help Ohio businesses succeed. Please visit the Check Ohio First website at www.checkohiofirst.com to learn about upcoming events, find information in our resource library and contracting links, register your company, and search for Ohio suppliers and buyers online. I also will mention at this time we are using a speakerphone today because we have all the speakers in the room with me, and if you do have trouble during the session hearing someone, please do send an instant message to us about that. If you would like to review the visuals from this presentation at a later date, you can access a PDF copy of today's presentation in the Check Ohio First Resource Library. Go to the home page at www.checkohiofirst.com and click on the Buyers Talk folder to access the presentation. A recording of this webinar will also be placed in the Check Ohio First Resource Library in the same Buyers Talk folder. Our learning objectives today include understanding COTA, marketing your business to COTA, and of course COTA stands for Central Ohio Transit Authority, the COTA bid process, who purchases what at COTA, how to get paid from COTA, and COTA's commitment to the disadvantaged business enterprise, small business enterprise market. You can find all of this information on COTA's website, and you see that link there at the bottom of the page, and I have been told that it's very important to have that ASPX in it, so you can go on their website after the webinar. At this time, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Marion White. Marion is the Vice President of Finance and Chief Financial Officer. Marion, please proceed.
Good morning, and thank you for that introduction, Wendy. The Central Ohio Transit Authority is very excited to partner with the Ohio Development Services Agency to provide a medium for reaching out to disadvantaged business enterprises and small businesses and share a step-by-step approach of how you can do business with COTA. COTA recognizes its responsibilities to the Central Ohio community and is committed to the success of DBEs and small businesses. COTA has a long-standing commitment to the elimination of discrimination in business practices, including the procurement of goods and services. It is in recognition of these responsibilities that COTA established a DBE policy in 1999 that we strictly adhere to today. It is indeed the policy of COTA to utilize ready, willing, and able disadvantaged small businesses and to use the best efforts that we can possible to level the playing field in the marketplace by ensuring firms have the opportunity to participate in COTA's procurement process. That is why this webinar is very important to us. We want to make sure all businesses understand how they can do business with COTA. As COTA continues to implement its long-range transit plan that was developed in 2006, there will be a number of business opportunities for you to participate. I encourage you to be on the lookout for these opportunities. So, thanks again for your participation in this webinar today, and we hope you find it helpful. Now I'm going to turn the mic over to Quincy Howard, our DBE Program Coordinator. Quincy.
Thank you, Mary. My name is Quincy. How are you all this morning? I'm glad everyone is logging on and getting to hear some of the great information that we'll have forward. What I'm going to talk about real quickly is just what we're going to be talking about today. First of all, we'll go into who we are, and then we'll get into getting your business noticed by COTA, really just marketing your business so that we know exactly what you can offer us and what we can be able to do for you. Then we'll go into effectively preparing a bid, And then lastly, the most important that most people tell us is getting paid after being awarded a contract with COTA. So what I'm going to do now is introduce the Director of Supply Management, Kevin Christopher. Kevin?
Thanks, Quincy. I appreciate that. Good morning. I'm Kevin Christopher, and I'd like to start with providing some information on who we are. COTA is a political subdivision of the state of Ohio, and we provide local transit service to the citizens of Central Ohio. The slide you see up at this time is just some vital statistics on COTA from 2012. And of interest here, you can see that COTA at that time had 309 buses. We've actually increased, and we are increasing our bus fleet every year. But that is, our fixed route fleet was at 309. COTA also provides our mainstream service for seniors and individuals with disabilities, and that service has a total of 62 buses. Of particular interest to the audience this morning, if you look down below, in 2012, COTA spent over $30.3 million in goods and services, and 12.8% of that went to the DBE community. The procurement function for COTA is centralized within the supply management department. What you see now is the organization chart for supply management. And just like to note, supply management is within the finance division, and it includes not only procurement, but also contract administration, the stores function, as well as the disadvantaged business enterprise function. And we will be getting into some of the specific contacts for specific goods and services later in the presentation. In its procurement, COTA uses an acquisition planning process to establish a structure to our acquisitions and also to tie them in to our short and long-range transit plan, to which Marion alluded earlier. This gives us a good plan for the year as to when we will be issuing our solicitations, either the request for bid or request for proposals. And for those acquisitions over $100,000 in value, and also we need to plan when we're going to present those to our Board of Trustees for authorization. The slide you see now is our actual 2013 acquisition plan, and this includes a number of different goods and services, and it provides you with information as to when we will be issuing the request for bids or request for proposals for those goods and services. So I would advise the audience to review this information in detail at a later date to see when your areas of expertise may be coming up on our schedule, in order that you can contact us and first of all to advise you're interested and to obtain a copy of the solicitation document. And I'd like to go ahead and get into some detail about COTA's actual procurement process. COTA, as a political subdivision of the state of Ohio, must adhere to Ohio Revised Code 30643, and that sets forth the Ohio law for competitive bidding for regional transit authorities. COTA is also a grant recipient of federal funding through the Federal Transit Administration. Those procurements are regulated under FTA Circular number 4220.1F. And so that will apply primarily to our large capital purchases, including the buses, as well as our large equipment purchases, other equipment purchases, as well as construction. And COTA is indeed in the construction business. We've done many new construction and renovation projects within the last few years, and that effort is ongoing into the future. So a lot of people probably don't think of a bus company getting into construction, but Believe me, we do, and we are very proud of our facilities, and again, we will be doing further construction in the future. As I previously mentioned, any procurements over $100,000 must be presented to our Board of Trustees, and the board meets monthly with the exception of August. So we need to time our procurements such that we get those resolutions to the board in a timely manner and ensure that the new contracts or new equipment purchases are put in place in order to maintain COTA operations and not to lose any continuity in service. As previously mentioned, we do our major procurements through either the request for bid or request for proposal process. The slide you see now gives further details on the RFP process. Again, for those RFPs over $100,000, those must be advertised. We use Columbus Dispatch, and we have an RFB or an RFP over $100,000 in value that is advertised in the Dispatch for 2 consecutive weeks. Again, the slide before gives further detail on the RFP process, and I encourage you to review that in detail at a later time. Next slide is the continuation of the RFP process, which ends at the top, and then at the bottom of the slide is the RFP process. I would like to note there is a difference in timing between these two processes. The RFP process is a little more straightforward in that the award will be based on the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and we can generally complete that process in approximately 60 days. The RFP process, on the other hand, involves an evaluation process because we're going to base our award on a number of evaluation criteria, and that involves the convening of an evaluation committee, the completion of the evaluations themselves, and then it leads to a negotiation process. So that overall process can run up to 60 days. So we have to be mindful of that when we're developing our overall acquisition plan for the year. Next slide you see is more information on the actual proposal evaluation process. We receive the proposals, and then I, as the director, will appoint an evaluation committee that consists of stakeholders in the process, and we also ensure that those stakeholders have a good level of expertise in the subject we're evaluating. Generally, our evaluation criteria will include technical expertise, the project approach, the company's experience in similar projects, and the company's technical resources. All those will be included in an evaluation matrix, and each of them will be assigned various weights to come up with a total evaluation score. We would then compile a short list, and many times we would bring companies from the short list in for on-site interviews. From the on-site interview process, we would then make the recommendation for award, and then we would go into the negotiation process with the successful proposers. From there, it would go on to the award, but I do want to note that we always make provisions for the debriefing of any unsuccessful offers. Now, in the bid process, as I mentioned earlier, we base the award on the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Lowest is obvious, the lowest bid. However, the low bid's not always going to get you the award. You must be responsive. In responsive, we mean that you submitted a bid that fully conforms in all material respects to the solicitation. That is, what you are bidding must meet our specifications, must be exactly what COTA specified. In terms of responsibility, the business entity must be fully capable to meet all requirements of the solicitation, and that includes experience in the area in question, and they must be a financially viable ongoing concern. So with that, I thank you, and I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Vicki Buchanan, who is the purchasing manager for Koda.
Good morning, and thank you, Kevin, for introducing me. I would like to talk a little bit about how to register with Koda on the Koda website. As you can see there on this screen, there is a link to our Koda website, and if you click on that link, it will bring up the front page of the website, which you need to click on the ribbon that says Business Opportunities. To the left side of the screen, you will see the open bids and registering as a vendor. To register as a vendor, there is a hyperlink to click on that brings up the registration form. Once you get to the registration form, there is another hyperlink which will provide you with the commodity codes. You will have to select a commodity code that is that matches what your company sells, and put the commodity code number into the registration form. Once the registration form is completed, it is submitted to Koda, and in a few days you will receive an email back stating that you have been entered into our vendor database, and you will be provided a ID number. With that, you will be able to update your vendor information if you need to, and you can look at the bids that are posted on the website. The next item that I'd like to speak to you about is at the bottom of the slide, which is called Prism. That is our DBE reporting software. When you hit the hyperlink to that, it will take you to the Prism website, and you can view any of the contracts that we have with any DBEs, or if you are a contractor that is looking for a DBE, this information will help you find a DBE that can provide the services that you are looking for. The next thing I would like to talk about is how we do the purchasing within our procurement department. The value of the procurement dictates how we are going to create the purchase. As you can see, up to $10,000, there are no quotes necessary to get the procurement started. We do a verification of the price, and we also can use a procurement card for those purchases. The next level is up to $25,000. We require 3 written quotes from our vendor base, and we utilize just a requisition form that is sent out to the vendors. Typically, the previous vendor will have the opportunity to quote on that product again, and we make every attempt to send out the quote to DBE vendors if available. The third tier is $25,001 to $100,000, and this is where we do a written bid. it's also referred to as a request for bid. The minimum of 3 contractors or 3 vendors are contacted, and it will go to DBE vendors as well, and it will go through our Rfp process. This is a listing of our procurement officers that currently work with you to process the purchase orders and the bids and proposals. The first procurement officer, Sherry Brainerd, she does services in these different categories. Our second listing is Bonnie Rickerson. She does our MRO products as well. And Marion Cooper does our internal purchases and office supplies. And our last person is Bruce Neal. He does the parts, the miscellaneous parts for our transit buses, which also includes the fuel and the lubricants. And now I would like to hand this over to our Accounting and Reporting Manager, Melissa Segretti. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicki. My name is Melissa, and I'm going to talk to you about the invoicing process and your submission of the invoice to get it processed for payment. All of your invoices should be sent to the attention of accounts payable. And the address should always be 33 North High Street. One of the common things that we see, you may be providing goods or services to one of our locations, one of the bus garages or the street and remote facility. While that information is important to have on the invoice, it's important that the billing address is 33 North High Street. Your invoices can be sent through snail mail to 33 North High. They can be faxed to the number on the slide. They can also be scanned and emailed to accountspayable@koda.com. We've listed a few items here on the slide that are imperative to have on your invoice. This will streamline the process, make sure it's being charged to the right place and the invoice is sent out to the right person for approval. Every invoice should have a unique invoice number and an invoice date. It's very important if you have received a purchase order number from the procurement officer to include that information on your invoice. As I mentioned, if you're providing goods or services to one of our facilities, our paratransit facility, or one of our bus garages, to list that information on the invoice somewhere. An itemized description of the services or the goods that you provided. This information is very helpful when the approver is looking over your invoice and signing off on it so that it can be processed for payment. The product pricing that you agreed to at the time of the contract. And also to include the name of the person that you provided the service or products to. This would not be the procurement officer, but the person that you're actually dealing with at Koda, the person who actually requested the goods or services. This helps us route the invoice to that person for approval. If you can subtotal out items, if you are providing services and materials, if you can line item that information out and provide subtotals, and of course the vendor remittance address allows us to get that check to you as quickly as possible. Please remember that Koda, as a political subdivision, is a tax-exempt organization. We do not pay sales tax. So if you are including sales tax on an invoice, we are going to line through that item and reduce the total down. It's helpful to keep that in mind. It streamlines the process if it's not on there. Next slide. Freight is another important item that is really imperative that you discuss that at the time that the requisition is created or the PO is generated for you. You might want to discuss that with your purchasing officer to come to an agreement on who will be paying freight. In order for us to do business with you and process payments on your invoices, you need to be set up as a vendor in our system. As you go through the screens that Vicki Buchanan mentioned to be registered as a vendor with Koda, you will complete a W-9 form, which will provide us with the appropriate information to process your check for payment. Our accounts payable organization runs checks every Thursday, and they will be mailed out no later than Friday. We have a cutoff of Wednesday at noon for receiving approved invoices. Next slide. And here I have two good examples of invoices that are missing information, either missing information or not really displaying the correct information that we need to efficiently route the invoice. You know, the one on the left has no description, a missing PO number, doesn't provide any information about who the services were provided for. The invoice on the right, you can see, has the bill to address appropriately displayed, but they're including the ship to information, I believe, as the same, or they have McKinley Avenue, which is one of our bus garages. So they're putting attention accounts payable, but they're getting a little confused with the locations of things. So it's very important to make sure that the appropriate information is listed on this invoice so that it can be keyed into our accounts payable system correctly and applied to the correct purchase order, but also so that it can get routed to the appropriate person for approval, because that is the most time-consuming part of the 30 days to turn an invoice around, would be getting accounts payable, getting this invoice to the proper approver, allowing them time to review the information on the invoice and make sure that they agree and are comfortable with approving it for payment, and then it's submitted back to the accounts payable department, who will then release it, and it'll be included in the next check run. Next slide. And that is our payment process. I'm going to hand it back to Quincy Howard.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm going to take a few minutes and just talk about our Disadvantaged Business Program. As Kevin mentioned earlier, we did over $30 million last year. And if you break that participation down by trade, first of all, just the total DBE dollars equal over $3.8 million. The number one area that we did that DBE participation in was in construction. Number two being transportation and warehousing, and number three, professional, scientific, and technical services. But as you can see in the ledger on the side, we do business in all of these areas in one facet or another. So we're very wide-based in our goods and services that Koda needs. For 2013, at the beginning of each year, the board comes together and they vote on what the goals should be for the year based on our recommendations. The first, the federal opportunities, again mentioning that we are funded by different entities. The federal opportunities, we have a tri-annual goal, which through 2012-2014, which at this point is 14.2%. For our operating opportunities or our local dollars, it's 10%. So we're looking at over $5.7 million of DBE dollars that we're looking to exceed in 2013. Well, that is actually the conclusion of our presentation, but at this time we would like to start taking your questions. If you could just start IMing over in the corner, and we will wait for your questions. And thank you. Stay tuned for Koda's future webinars. Plan on doing a lot more of them. And our brand new Koda website that's coming soon. And I'll hand it back over to Wendy in just a moment.
Well, a big thank you to all of our wonderful speakers from Koda. I can tell you that they actually approached us about doing this webinar and have been working on this since January. We've had a pretty busy schedule here, so that we're very happy that they could join us today. We would like to take your questions, and I see that we have one coming in that says, does COTA differentiate between the DBA and MBE certifications? I'm actually going to pass the phone back over. We're using some technology here to try to get everyone on the sound, and we do have to pass the phone around. I'm going to pass the phone back over, and we'll take these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. As far as the certifications, COTA recognizes 3 entities for their certification. The DBE certification is actually done through the Ohio Department of Transportation, but the MBE certification is done through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services and the City of Columbus. The next question, does COTA use safety vests? We'll let Kevin answer.
Yes, the question was, does COTA use safety vests? Yes, indeed we do. And we have a street and remote department that's out on the road a lot, and so we do utilize those. And those would primarily be procured through our purchasing agent for facilities, which is Ms. Bonnie Anderson. Does COTA have a need for office seating? Well, we do periodically, generally when we're doing renovation projects or new construction. We will have an upcoming office renovation project at our McKinley facility, probably in 2014. So I would watch for upcoming solicitations in that area.
That's for me. Why don't you answer this one?
Oh, okay. The next question is, do we have to be registered with COTA to submit a bid? The answer is no. You don't have to be registered to submit a bid. However, if you are the successful bidder, you will need to be registered prior to the issuance of a purchase order. So we encourage anyone interested in doing business with COTA to go ahead and register. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Wendy now.
We have a question here about the state of Ohio procurement and whether the state of Ohio buys off of the federal GSA schedule. If you are interested in getting help on procurement issues with any local, state, or federal government agency, we would like to refer you either to the Small Business Development Centers or to the Ohio Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. The PTACs are actually funded by the Department of Defense, and they offer technical support to anybody who wants to do business with the government. You can access information about the PTACs on the Check Ohio First website. If you go to www.checkohiofirst.com and you go down to the lower right-hand corner of the page where it says Browse Links, you can get a link to the Ohio Small Business Development Centers. There are about 40 of those centers around the state, and they will help you with any small business need. You can also get a link to the Ohio Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. They are also located around the state, and those are your specialists in government contracting. So I'd like to direct questions about any kind of other government contracting besides COTA to those groups today. And I can also tell you that in the Check Ohio First resource library, there is a recording that we did of a webinar last fall with the state of Ohio that gives you about a 15-minute introduction to doing business with the state of Ohio. So I think I think for the most part, for the state of Ohio, if you go to Browse Links, you'll see a couple of links there to the state of Ohio procurement, and they do have their own website, and you can go on there and register as a vendor as well. So it looks like we have some questions coming back in for COTA, and I'm going to go ahead and hand that microphone back over. Thanks.
All right, the next question is there a list of the top large prime contractors with COTA for small business subcontracting opportunities? There is no list per se. What we recommend on this is whenever we have large construction projects, we encourage the small businesses to attend the pre-bid conferences and network at those events, because generally those large top prime contractors will be in attendance at the pre-bid conferences. And also, when we do issue the request for bids, the list of bidders who have received the solicitation is also made available upon request. So if we do have a large construction project out there and a small business is interested in finding out who some of the large companies holding plans are, they can request a copy of that bidders list. So I trust that addresses that question. Okay. Next question, are there any small business subcontracting requirements mandated by COTA for large primes? COTA does reserve the right to approve any and all subcontractors on our projects. So we will, if we're not familiar with a given small business that's being proposed, we will request information to ascertain that they have experience in the given area and that we have a level of confidence they can meet the requirements of the project.
Do you actually require I think they're asking if you require your prime contractors to reach certain levels?
Oh, is there a goal? Yeah, we do assign goals for all of our projects, and those are developed based on our review of ready, willing, and able DBEs in any of the areas where subcontracting opportunities may arise on a given project. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Wendy.
All right, well, we thank you for sending those questions in. Looks like we may have one more coming in, but I'm going to go ahead and finish up the webinar, and then if we have a few more, we can stay on at the end. I would like to, in closing, send a special thank you to all of our speakers, both for sharing your knowledge and your time. We'd like to thank everyone for their participation and ask that you please complete our online evaluation that will be sent out by email this afternoon. We will be doing further Buyer Talks webinars later in the year. Visit www.checkohiofirst.com to register for our mailing list and view upcoming events. Our next webinar in the PTAC Talk series will be next Thursday, June 27th at 10:30 a.m. Our topic is Navigating SAM, Tips on the System of Awards Management for Federal Contractors. And our speaker will be Shonda Harris, Contracting Specialist with the Ohio University PTAC at Columbus. I'd also like to mention that later in the year, the state of Ohio does have one day. It's in Columbus, Ohio, in the fairgrounds area, where all of the state agency buyers, every state agency sends a buyer in person to talk with the small businesses around Ohio, including, of course, all of our minority and EDGE certified companies, about their procurement needs. And you can talk one-on-one with state buyers. We do also include the universities, and there are some local buyers there as well, local government buyers. I have a tentative date of August 21st on that, but that has not been finalized yet. So as soon as we have a final date, please continue to check the Check Ohio First website and register your company. That way you'll get on our email list to find out about these upcoming events. So watch your email for future Check Ohio First webinar announcements, and please feel free to share these announcements and registration links with your colleagues. Visit www.checkohiofirst.com frequently to see postings for upcoming events and view recordings and materials from past events. Please register your business or agency in our online directory of Ohio businesses, and remember to check Ohio First for all your contracting needs. Until our next online training session, we hope everyone has a great day. For those of you who would like to stay on the line, please do so. We'll keep the webinar open to answer any additional questions. For those that want to sign off, We thank you and say goodbye, and we will end our recording at this time. Thanks so much. And I'm going to pass the phone back to our COTA speakers to answer any more questions.
Thank you, Wendy. The next question is there a particular COTA contact person to communicate with after the webinar to ask more specific questions? I guess I will take the helm for that. My name is Quincy, again, Howard. My email is Howard, Howard, QJ at COTA.com. And you can just forward your questions to me.
And actually, if you look at the announcement reminder that was sent out this morning about the webinar, I believe that I copied